In Cervantes, he looks at this idea because when they burned the books to try to cure Alonso Quixada of his brain fever, what are they really accomplishing? Well, they're destroying information. There's nothing wrong with the books. It's what do we do with it? What do we think about it? How do we react to it? And Montaigne says, that's what we need to do. Don't have people just pour information and you spit it back out. Regurgitation. I try to give you some clues and hints and details in the videos I ask you guys to look at to help you with the essays. But I really want you to think about what you're seeing and reading. If I show you a video or if you read in your textbook, I want you to think about those and formulate those thoughts and what your views are on it. The essay topics generally ask, how do you see? What do you see as important? What can you identify about the moral tones of the art in the Northern Renaissance? By the way, if you look at the essay topic, that's what we're talking about. Because it's part of it. It's moral tone. They're questioning the role of man. What are we really supposed to be like? Part of it is that humanistic attitude, which we saw in the Southern or the Italian Renaissance area. But the Northern are taking and they apply it more deliberately to the way man acts on a daily basis and on a longer term. The idea about government itself. What responsibility does man have? It's expressed in the music of the era. I'm going to have to skip over Shakespeare. I don't have that much time. I'm going to assume most of you know more about Shakespeare, okay? Right? I don't have to cover all of Shakespeare for you. But as I point out, even Shakespeare makes a comment about the folly of man. He does that constantly. In Hamlet, he raises the point about what a piece of work is man, how evident reason, how all these wonderful attributes. And then he says, but man delights me not. Because man loses sight of what he can be. Well, in the artwork and music, you have that moral aspect still being part of it. Remember the Calvinists, of course, they don't want music, be played for any other purposes. Don't get to go dancing, singing. You don't get to do that. Go to church and do it, sing. Luther did that. He actually wrote hymns for his church. Let's see. Yeah, 235, they talk about that. Chorals written in German, Druid, and Latin, hymns and German folk tunes. Again, the choral or chorale is a congregational hymn. The idea that that's what, if you want to sing, well, you come to church and we'll all stand up, we'll sing together. How many of you go to a church where that happens all the time? You go to church where everybody stands up and sings? Yeah, you have a hymn book, right? Okay. Remember, it used to just be the monks doing the Gregorian chants. Well, most of the people in the congregation were not going to be singing the Gregorian chants. Okay? They didn't get to do that. Because they didn't know Latin for the most part. Many of them would not have known Latin anyway. The Gregorian chants are generally in Latin. So you're going to have like maybe the group of monks up there doing the music, and that's about it. Well, now under Luther, no, we're going to all sing together. We will have hymns, and we will stand up and we will sing praises to God, because that's what music should be. Right? Isn't that what all music should be? Praises to God? Yeah, think about some of the lyrics of rap songs. Right? Those are praises to God, aren't they? Yeah. Again, this on page 235, they phrase it this way. Emphasizing music as a source of religious instruction, Luther encouraged the writing of hymnals and reorganized the German Mass. If you're going to have music, by golly, that's what we're going to do. Well, it doesn't always stay that way because it changes. But, those Italians are doing music all sorts of ways. The northern people say, nope, we're going to go back to this one. And Luther, in fact, writes a hymn, one of the most famous, it says. He probably didn't write the melody, they think, but A Mighty Fortress is Our God. The anthem of the Reformation, it said. You have the simplicity and clarity of those, so everybody can sing it together. Everything's going to be in unison. So all voices singing the same words at the same time. It's only later, of course, the Calvinists, the Anabaptists and stuff, they go, this music, it could cause problems. going to set somebody's toe a tapping. Next thing you know, they'll break out and dance. Can't do that. So music gets a little different. Calvin enjoyed singing the Psalms, and that's about it. But this idea about music, because heaven forbid your toes started tapping while you were in church, or you started paying along to the rhythm of the music. Let's not do that. So that they have some issues there. That changes, though, especially when you have a little commentary about the Elizabethan music. Music takes on a different era, an aura, when it goes into England during this time. This era of music there, this time period for music there, is going to be different. Shakespeare's plays, almost every Shakespearean play at some part has a musical part. Now, we don't have the music for them, but we know that there are probably parts of almost every play that were intended to be sung, especially in the comedies. Now, the tragedy not so much, and the history plays maybe not so much, but there are parts that probably were meant to be sung. And even in some of the tragedies, we see parts that were meant to be sung or chanted in some way. You told me you read Macbeth in high school, right? He's not listening. You told me you read Macbeth in high school, right? Yeah, there you go. Pay attention. Well, in Macbeth, there are parts, of course, the witches that appear at different times and are last seen really in Act 4. They have a chant. There's also another part in there where the witches appear. It's probably also might have been set to music. And so you have those aspects to it. Your book makes this comment that England enjoyed a golden age of music making. Informal music making prevailed in the royal court and in the homes of musical amateurs. You have madrigals are being offered. Popular songs are offered. Many of them paying homage to Queen Elizabeth, but they're all being used to be sung. Because of they're supposed to be set to music, and you could literally sing them. They're not just poems, they were also songs. And so that becomes a common everyday aspect, so that people literally would have music around them, which moves a little bit away from that moral tone and attitude that is part of the era. But what we do see is that there are changes taking place. They're setting up for a next movement. They're going to start changing the world, as it is, when suddenly the world expands. I made a comment that Moore writes about Utopia as this land off to the west, because of course they didn't know much about the people to the west. Columbus had only been back 25 years. Those voyages are still fairly new. People are still trying to figure out just how far around was it. You're going to have the exploration, if you will, of certain areas offered. One of the major aspects is the circumnavigation of the globe. It's not going to take place for a while, because Magellan is going to not do that for a while. And of course, he didn't really make it all the way around anyway, because he dies. He's just credited with it because of the. I'm trying to send something to myself. Here it is. And it probably will not call up because we just have enough time not to show this. But just recently, it actually was found probably 15, 16 years ago. They've been working on it, and they now have confirmed this. You have, 1998 is when they first found it. They've been excavating it ever since. They have confirmed it, they believe. That this is, that they have found in the part of the Arabian Sea, just off of Al Hainaya Island in the Arabian Sea. They have found a ship belonging to Vasco da Gama, Portuguese explorer who sailed to the south and tried to get over to India that way. This is in, as they call it, the golden age of exploration. and they had found this ship that was sunk probably in 1503 is what they're looking at. The Esmeralda that belonged to part of the Gama's fleet that had been ruled by his uncle, Vicente Sodre. I'll show more of that next time for us. But this idea about exploration, well, things are going to change now. They're going to start running into other people. They start running into, wait a minute, people who are not quite like the way we are. They thought those Teutonics were barbaric. Well, now they're going to run into people they really consider barbaric. Because some of them don't wear clothes that much. And it's like, okay. And some of them are, worshiping these other figures and doing all sorts of things. And wait a minute. This isn't how it's supposed to be. And so you wind up having this, as the next chapter talks to you about, a clash of cultures. Where not everybody fits in the way they should fit in. And the result is that you start having changes occurring. The world alters. It changes tremendously. And not only does it expand in size and scope, but it expands in other areas as well. The consequence is that we have a world that's going to be a very different world. It's going to open and has to be reconsidered. It's not the closed world that they had been used to. The artists that you have mentioned in your book start looking at some of these things as well. In the Northern Renaissance, everything gets a little darker in their presentations. They look at some of the more common. Bruegel, for instance, shows us images of the common man. And so issues start coming up then, somewhat the way that some of these writers like Erasmus or More had looked at. What role does the common person have? Do we need to have this authoritative figure who, by inheritance, controls, or should we look at other aspects? Should we look instead at the quality of the man, not the quality of his lineage? And that raises issues. You start having people, because of their willingness to take chances, sail to unknown regions, and come back, they suddenly are making profit. Again, profiteering becomes part of it. Queen Elizabeth is going to really do that. She's going to establish a whole group of people called privateers. And their basic job was to explore the oceans on behalf of the Queen. And if you happen to run across any Spanish treasure-laden ships, and you take that ship, that's fine, bring the treasure back home, and we'll split it. So these privateers became basically pirates on the high seas. And eventually some of them were going to say, why am I having to take it back to her? I can just be a pirate on my own and take these ships. And they started, next thing you know, you have piracy in the New World. All of you have seen Pirates of the Caribbean. Good, okay, we're good. We've seen that one. Okay, well that's going to linger for a while because that's supposed to be set in basically the 1700s. But it lingers for a while. Starts though in the 1500s, 1560s and 70s. And lingers for quite some time. It's going to be a different world. As you get ready to read chapter 9, be thinking about this issue about cultures and the clashes that's going to happen at that time. Any questions or comments?